All right, here we go. The big night is finally upon us. It's Wednesday, the 20th of August, and it's the first leg of Celtic's all-important Champions League playoff against Kairat. All eyes on Celtic Park tonight as Brendan Rodgers' men look to put themselves in a strong position before the return leg in Kazakhstan. There's been plenty of talk building up to this clash, and today we're diving straight into the thick of it. From Rodgers' press conference to player updates, injury news, a look at the opposition, and of course, a healthy bit of Scottish football reality check after last night's events. Now, let's not beat around the bush. There was a certain bit of satisfaction watching Rangers collapse once again on the European stage. A 3-1 defeat to Club Brugge. And just like that, Scotland's Champions League hopes are hanging by a thread that only Celtic might be able to hold. As amusing as it was, we won't dwell on it. This channel isn't about them. But it's fair to say, when the lights shine bright on the biggest European nights, there's only one Scottish club that looks remotely capable of stepping up, and that's Celtic. Tonight, it's about making a statement. Brendan Rodgers knows it. The players know it. And the fans packing out paradise certainly know it. Speaking ahead of the match, Rodgers was calm, composed, and laser-focused. He made a point of saying the squad won't overthink the occasion. No need to play the moment, just play the football. That's the message being drilled into the team. And that's what gives you confidence. Rodgers isn't a man caught up in the pressure. He's building something here slowly but surely. And if this group sticks to what they've been working on since preseason, the results will come. Still, it's been far from a smooth summer for the club. Off the pitch, there's been more noise than you'd like, with speculation flying around transfer targets, exits, and the general state of the squad. But inside Lennoxtown, things have been steady. The group's been working, progressing, and Rodgers, to his credit, has been honest about the situation. He even touched on how unsettling this period can be for players. Some are uncertain about their future, not knowing if they'll be playing Champions League or Europa League football, or if they'll even still be here by the end of the window. But Rodgers put it plainly, the wage is still being paid by Celtic. The expectations remain, and in fairness, the players have responded well. No sulking, no drama, just commitment. You can sense there's a real togetherness in that dressing room, even if the headlines have been less than kind. And as frustrating as the lack of movement in the market might be, Rodgers made it clear some things are simply out of his control. When he said, "I can't control a lot of it," it wasn't just a throwaway line. That was a subtle reminder to fans and board alike that he's doing what he can with what he's got. And what he's got might just be enough for now. He said this current group is good enough to beat Kairat. And honestly, you'd have to agree. This isn't a team from a top European league. Kairat are champions of Kazakhstan. Yes, but this is Celtic Park under the lights. Rodgers knows, though, that if we do make it into the group stage, that's when the real questions will start to be asked. Reinforcements will be necessary. And it sounds like he's pushing hard behind the scenes, even if he isn't shouting about it in press conferences. The Jamie Vardy rumors? He batted those away, refusing to get drawn in. No confirmation, no denial. Compare that to when he squashed the links to Odsonne Edouard in the past. This one felt a little more open-ended. Interesting, isn't it? It might not mean much, but it's those little nuances that get you thinking. Similarly, the comparisons to how he spoke about Kasper Schmeichel last summer feel familiar. Back then, he said he wanted a good goalkeeper and knew Schmeichel well, but didn't reveal anything concrete. That same line of guarded optimism was back again with Vardy. But Vardy isn't here tonight, so the focus is on the players who are. And in yesterday's media availability, we finally got some insight into individuals, which, frankly, is overdue. Fan media showed up with proper questions, not the bland, recycled lines we've heard so many times. We heard about Paulo Bernardo, who's barely seen the pitch this season. Only 15 minutes across 3 games. He's currently 6th choice in midfield. And yet, Rodgers still rates him. He just says the competition is fierce. And he's not wrong. That midfield is stacked. You've got Callum McGregor, who's practically undroppable, then others like Matt O'Reilly, Rio Hatate, and new faces like Engel and McCauley pushing for minutes. The challenge for Bernardo is simple. Where do the minutes come from? Rodgers hinted that with more games, especially midweeks, the rotation will increase. But let's be honest. When McGregor's fit, he plays. That's just the reality. So unless someone drops in form or gets injured, Bernardo might be in for another season of limited chances unless he can prove he's capable of filling that McGregor role when needed. Saturday's league match could be the perfect opportunity to test that. Assuming McGregor, Hatate, and Engel start tonight, why not give Bernardo, McCauley, and another a run out against Livingston? We'll see if Rodgers agrees. Then there's Hayato Anamura, another one left out of the Champions League squad. Rodgers didn't mince his words. Said flat out, he's not at the level yet, especially defensively. There's still uncertainty about whether he's more of a left back or center half. But whatever the role, Rodgers made it clear that he needs more development. A loan move looks almost certain, and given the timing, you'd expect that to happen soon. What that does do is highlight a gap at left back. If Anamura is off and Liam Scales becomes our second choice behind Tierney, that's a concern. As good as Scales has been at times, we need stronger depth there. 2 weeks left in the window, and that's a position that cannot be ignored. And then Dane Murray, a player who seems to have quietly climbed up the pecking order. Rodgers is a fan, no question. He talked up his physicality, pace, strength, and composure on the ball. Even suggested Murray is the direct backup to Cameron Carter-Vickers on the right side of central defense. That's a big shout. It gives us a clear picture of how Rodgers sees his defensive structure. Carter-Vickers is the nailed-on starter. If he needs rest or gets injured, which has happened before, then it's Murray who steps in. Not Scales, not Trusty, not Simpson-Pusey. Speaking of the others, it's clear each has a place in Rodgers' thinking. Simpson-Pusey is flexible, can play both sides. Scales and Trusty are more natural on the left. But that back five of center backs looks set. Carter-Vickers, Murray, Trusty, Scales, Simpson-Pusey. Not the strongest group Celtic have ever had, but definitely serviceable. And Rodgers made it known, Murray is staying. No loan deal. He wants him in and around the squad. That speaks volumes. So with all of that laid out, the stage is set for tonight. But what about the opposition? Kyra might not be a household name, but they've had a solid qualifying campaign. That said, they're far from full strength tonight. Reports from Kazakhstan suggest they'll be missing key players. Their regular left back Luis Mata is out as a starting midfielder. Valery Gromyko, due to suspension. Georgi Zarya is also sidelined. That's 3 players who would have likely started. Big blow for them. To cover the gaps, it looks like their right back Jurkin Taplov will have to shift over to the left side, out of position. And a new face will come in on the right. Fatigue could also be a factor. They played away last week, traveled again, and had a tough league match over the weekend where they couldn't rotate much. Compared to Celtic, who made plenty of changes in the Scottish Cup against Falkirk, the freshness factor could play a big part. Their predicted 11, for what it's worth, doesn't strike fear. Veteran keeper Zarutsky in goal. Back 4 of Marinsky, Martinho, Sorin, and Taplov. Midfield options include Arad Stand and Glazer. The front 3 remains unchanged. Garinho on the left, Edmelin through the middle, and Dostan Sap on the right. They've got some pace and directness out wide, and Edmelin could be a handful in the air. But let's be honest, if Celtic turn up, this is a team we should be beating, and beating comfortably. Kazakh media themselves don't seem too optimistic. The tone over there is one of realism. They know Celtic Park is a fortress. And this is a step up in class from what Kairat have faced so far. If the hoops start strong, if the tempo is right, and if that early goal comes, the tie could be over by halftime. That's the opportunity in front of us. Seize it, and we'll head to Almaty next week with confidence, not nerves. And just a quick note for those heading to the game, arrive early. There were some fan concerns about the concourse wall on Friday night. The club says it's still in place tonight. So give yourself time. It's almost a full house, too. Only a few restricted view seats left in section 121 at the time of recording. Safe to say, it'll be sold out by kickoff. Tonight's referee is Norwegian Espen Eskes. He's taken charge of 2 previous Celtic games, a 3-1 loss to Leipzig in Germany and a 3-1 home win over Rennes. So a mixed bag there. Assistants are also Norwegian, with VAR being handled by a Dutch team. And if you're watching from home, The match is live on TNT Sports 1 in the UK. If you're down under in Australia, Stan Sport has the coverage. The return leg next week in Almaty will be shown on Amazon Prime as it falls on a Tuesday. So there it is. The build-up, the buzz, the pressure, it's all there. But this is where Celtic belong. Under the lights, chasing Champions League glory. Tonight, the players have a chance to make a statement, to light up the stadium, and to remind everyone why they're Scotland's top European hope. Let's carry on then, because there's still so much more to unpack about this Celtic side, this matchup with Kairat, and what it all means in the bigger picture for the season ahead. We're standing at a bit of crossroads here. The Champions League isn't just about glamour and prestige, though there's plenty of that. It's about money, momentum, and validation. It tells you where you stand, not just in Scotland, but in Europe. Fail tonight, and the consequences ripple far beyond a bad 90 minutes. But get it right, put the tie to bed at home, and suddenly the narrative shifts. Suddenly, this group looks like it's ready for what's coming. The last few seasons have taught us not to take anything for granted in these qualifiers. You can't just turn up and expect to steamroll a team because they come from a smaller league. That's not how football works anymore. Teams are organized. They're fit. They know how to frustrate. But what Celtic have, what sets us apart when we're firing, is that mix of controlled aggression and technical sharpness. We don't need to be spectacular every minute, but we need to be smart, ruthless, and relentless. That's what Brendan Rodgers is demanding. And speaking of Rodgers, what a fascinating chapter this is becoming in his second stint. When he returned, there were doubts. Not necessarily about his coaching ability, but about how the fans would welcome him back, how the squad would respond, and whether he could pick up where he left off. What we're starting to see now, slowly but surely, is that Rodgers has reestablished his authority. He's not here to coast. He's building, shaping, and pushing, even if he doesn't yet have all the tools he wants. The press conference before this match gave us more than just tactical hints. It gave us a glimpse into his mindset. The way he brushed off the transfer questions, the way he spoke about commitment and focus. That's not a man who's distracted. That's someone who knows this squad isn't finished, but also knows that complaining publicly won't help. He's keeping the internal matters internal, and he's putting his energy into the players who are available. That's what a proper leader does. And make no mistake, Rodgers is in control. Maybe not of the boardroom, maybe not of recruitment timelines, but on the pitch, in the dressing room, it's his voice that matters most. Now, tactically tonight, you'd expect Celtic to dominate the ball. That's what we do at home. But possession alone isn't enough. We've been stung before by sides sitting deep, soaking up pressure, and hitting us on the counter. Kairat will likely do the same. They know they can't match us toe-to-toe in a high-tempo match. So they'll try to kill the pace, frustrate the crowd, and sneak chances when they can. The key for Celtic will be patience without passivity. We can't force things early, but we also can't afford to be pedestrian. Quick, purposeful passing, movement off the ball, and a strong first 20 minutes. That's where this match can be won. And then there's the crowd. Celtic Park on a European night is something else entirely. You can feel it in your chest when the teams walk out. You can feel it in your bones when that first tackle flies in. The players feed off that energy. But that energy has to be channeled. If we start sloppy, if we're slow or careless, the tension creeps in. The atmosphere tightens. But if we start sharp, with intent and purpose, the place becomes electric. Kairat won't have experienced anything like it. No amount of training or video analysis prepares you for 60,000 voices roaring you on or shouting you down. That's the 12th man tonight. The fans have their role. Keep the noise up. Don't let frustration kill the momentum. The players will respond. One area of real interest will be how Rodgers manages his forward line. There's been a bit of rotation in recent weeks, and you can sense he's still figuring out what his best attacking trio looks like. Kyogo is nailed on through the middle. No one's doubting that. His movement, his finishing, his understanding with the midfield, he's the heartbeat of the front line. But the wide positions? That's where the decisions get trickier. Abada has pace and unpredictability, but can drift in and out of games. Maeda brings relentless energy and defensive work, but doesn't always have the end product. And then there's Young, who's got bags of technical quality but still learning how to impose himself consistently. The temptation tonight will be to go with the most trusted trio, the ones who've been there before, who understand the magnitude of the occasion. That probably means Maeda and Abada flanking Kyogo. But don't be surprised if Rodgers throws in a wild card. Maybe Young gets the nod, maybe even Forrest. Rodgers has always liked experienced heads in these big moments. Whoever gets the start, the message will be clear: be direct, be dangerous, and don't waste chances. European nights are often decided by who takes their moments. Midfield will likely be anchored by McGregor. It always is. His influence is immense, not just in his ability to dictate tempo, but in the way he keeps the structure together. He's the metronome. Ahead of him, it's about who complements his control. If Hatate is fit and firing, he adds that spark of creativity and unpredictability. Engel, if given the nod, brings legs and verticality. O'Reilly offers balance, vision, and the ability to make those late runs into the box. It's a good problem to have, too many good options, but it also raises the stakes for those trying to break in, like Bernardo. Minutes are precious, and every time you step on the pitch, you got to make your case. At the back, things are more settled than they've been in a while. Carter Vickers is the rock. He's the one you trust to win the duels, to lead the line, to snuff out danger. Whoever partners him, whether it's Trusty, Scales, or maybe even Dane Murray, the chemistry has to be right. European matches punish poor positioning and lapses in concentration. The fullback areas will also be critical. Tierney, if he starts, will be asked to push forward and create width. On the opposite side, Johnston or Ralston will need to balance support with stability. Kairat's wide players do have pace, and that's something Rodgers will be wary of. But again, this is Celtic Park. We shouldn't be shaping our game around Kairat. They should be the ones scrambling to contain us. And if we impose ourselves early, make them uncomfortable, and find the net before halftime, this could be the kind of night that sets the tone for the rest of the campaign. That said, football has a way of humbling you when you get too confident. So while optimism is fair, complacency is fatal. You respect the opponent, but you don't fear them. Kairat have had to grind their way through qualifying. They've played plenty of football, done a lot of traveling, and are now missing key players. This is not a group coming into Celtic Park full of belief. It's a group that knows they're up against it. If we give them reason to doubt themselves early, they might fold. But if we're slow, sloppy, or wasteful, they'll grow into the match. The difference could be in the little things. The set pieces, the second balls, the moments where you have to track back 10 extra yards or make that crucial interception. That's what separates Champions League clubs from the rest. Celtic have the quality. The question is whether they have the discipline and intensity to match. It's also worth remembering that tonight isn't just about the scoreline. It's about momentum, about sending a message, not just to Kairat, not just to the rest of Scotland, but to the rest of Europe. That Celtic are back. They were serious. That we're not here to make up the numbers. Every big European campaign starts with a performance like this. Dominate at home, then manage the away leg. Simple as that. One thing to note is that the club's taken on board some fan feedback from the last home game regarding the internal wall in the concourse area. Unfortunately, it looks like that wall's still in place tonight. So, if you're heading to the stadium, get there early. There's going to be a full house. Only a handful of restricted view tickets left earlier today. So, expect a packed stadium and all the energy that comes with it. The referee, Espinescas, has been here before. One match went our way, one didn't. No controversies to note, which is probably the best thing you could say about a European referee. Hopefully we're not talking about him tomorrow morning. VAR, of course, is in play, handled by a Dutch team. So here's hoping it's a quiet night in the booth. And let's be honest, it's hard not to feel excited about what this team could be. There's raw talent, there's experience, and there's a manager who knows what success looks like. This isn't the finished product, not yet. But nights like this are where things start to click, where partnerships are forged, where belief begins to spread. You get the job done here, go to Almaty with confidence, and suddenly you're in the group stage with wind in your sails. Because if we're being honest, the pain of not qualifying last season still lingers. That sting of falling short, of watching other clubs take our place on Europe's biggest stage, it hurts. And it should. Celtic belong in the Champions League. The badge, the history, the fan base were built for this level. But that means nothing unless it's backed up on the pitch. So tonight, it's about taking control, not just of this tie, but of our destiny. Play with intensity. Play with pride. Give the fans something to believe in. And if all goes well, we'll be waking up tomorrow talking about a statement performance, a dominant result, and a clear path to the group stage. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. In recent days, the European football landscape has been buzzing with an unexpected statement that has put both fans and pundits on edge, as Postecoglou, the Australian manager currently in charge of Celtic, allowed himself to express a rare moment of candor about the direction of the club. Known usually for his calm demeanor and tendency to downplay controversies, Postecoglou surprised everyone by declaring that Celtic would not be able to compete seriously for titles if significant investment was not made in the squad. The remark, carried by whispers through local media outlets and quickly picked up in cafes, pubs, and fan forums across Scotland, created an atmosphere of shock and curiosity. Many interpreted his words as both a warning and a plea, perhaps a subtle way of urging the Celtic board to match his ambitions with the necessary financial backing. At the same time, rival supporters saw it as an admission of weakness, a suggestion that the current team, despite recent triumphs, might not be strong enough to stand shoulder to shoulder with Europe's elite clubs. The honesty of the statement, almost uncharacteristic in its bluntness, has now sparked a wider conversation about the balance between tradition, sustainability, and the modern demands of top-level football. What has intensified the rumor mill is the timing of this revelation, emerging in the middle of transfer speculation and at a moment when fans are particularly anxious about the future of their beloved club. Celtic, a name steeped in history and glory, often finds itself caught between its proud past and the financial muscle of continental rivals. Supporters adore Postecoglou for the energy and attacking football he has instilled, but the sudden shift in his tone has led many to wonder if he is testing the waters, gauging how far he can push the board toward opening the purse strings. In Glasgow's streets and in the stands of Parkhead, the whispers are growing louder, with some suggesting that this could be a strategic maneuver, while others worry it is a genuine cry of frustration. The idea that Celtic could stagnate without investment cuts deeply into the heart of the fan base, for they have seen their club challenged in Europe before, only to fall short when resources ran dry. Now, in the wake of these remarks, there is a palpable sense that the manager is trying to shift the narrative, placing responsibility not only on his tactical acumen, but also on the financial choices of those in charge of the club's destiny. Adding to the intrigue is the broader European context, where clubs of similar stature have either soared with timely injections of capital or faltered due to conservative spending. Postecoglou's declaration seems to echo a recurring theme in modern football, that history, passion, and tactical brilliance alone may not be sufficient to secure silverware in a landscape dominated by wealth. The murmurs suggest that behind the scenes he has already presented a list of potential reinforcements, players who could strengthen the squad both domestically and in European competitions, but the reluctance from the board has been noticeable. Fans discuss late into the night whether this is a power play, a way for the manager to protect his reputation by making it clear that shortcomings on the pitch are not of his making, but rather the consequence of insufficient support from above. At the same time, former players and pundits speculate on television and radio that this type of statement could either galvanize the directors into action or create an unwanted rift. Whichever interpretation is true, it has left Scottish football engrossed, because the image of one of its biggest clubs potentially losing momentum is both worrying and sensational. The situation has also reignited the rivalry narrative, as supporters of Rangers and other clubs watch closely, some with glee, others with genuine curiosity. For them, The possibility that Celtic might falter through lack of investment opens opportunities to shift the balance of power in the Scottish Premiership. In pubs across Glasgow, Rangers supporters chuckle at the idea of their eternal rivals being forced to admit limitations, while neutrals wonder if this public statement could be the beginning of a new chapter in Scottish football politics. Meanwhile, the Celtic faithful remain torn between backing their manager's honesty and fearing that such bluntness could destabilize the dressing room. Rumors circulate that certain senior players privately agree with Postecoglou, sharing the view that without reinforcements, fatigue and injuries could derail their season. Yet others whisper that the timing was poor, that a public airing of grievances, however valid, risks giving ammunition to rivals and unsettling younger players who look to their manager for steady leadership. It is precisely this blend of uncertainty, rivalry, and passion that makes Scottish football unique, and why this story refuses to die down, lingering like a storm cloud over Celtic's ambitions. Ultimately, what remains most compelling about this episode is the unpredictability of its aftermath. Will the Celtic board heed the warning and inject the funds necessary to secure both domestic dominance and a credible European campaign? Or will they remain firm in their belief that measured spending is the only way to protect the club's long-term stability? Postecoglou has never before been so outspoken, which suggests that he either senses a breaking point or sees an opportunity to rally the fans to his cause. Either way, the buzz surrounding his words has taken on a life of its own, and the wider footballing world is watching with keen interest. Some imagine a future where he becomes a folk hero for forcing change, while others speculate darkly that he may walk away if his demands are not met. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in the shadows of speculation. But the undeniable fact is that Celtic, once again, has become the epicenter of a narrative that transcends sport, reflecting broader debates about money, ambition, and tradition. For now, all anyone can do is watch, whisper, and wonder how much truth lies behind the rumor that has shaken Scottish football to its core. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.